haddaba
Hello dear viewers, you're watching us live on the radio television of Djibouti. Here are the top stories for tonight. The head of state presided over this morning the military parade marking the 42nd anniversary of independence. The president insisted on the need to continue to build our nation. And this morning, the Republic of Djibouti celebrated the 42nd anniversary of its independence. Despite the unbearable heat in this period of intense heat, this celebration, the most important in the country, brought together the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Mergele, the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, the President of the National Assembly Mohammed Ali Hamad, all government ministers and parliamentarians on a specially designed site in Balbala, members of diplomatic and consular corps, and not forgetting all the members of the Egyptian parliament headed by the president of the Egyptian National Assembly who came yesterday, senior officials of the foreign forces stationed in Djibouti, and thousands of anonymous people who came to admire the military parade, which is the highlight of the celebration of this day every year. It should be noted that important personalities from friendly countries are present in the official gallery. These include the new Speaker of the Egyptian Parliament, Dr. Ali Abdalal, and his delegation of 8 Egyptian elected officials. Both were there to attend the parade of the various corps of the Djibouti nation, namely the units of Djibouti Armed Forces, the Republican Guard, the National Gendarmerie, the Djibouti Coast Guard, and the National Police.
دو دعطور كما دادا عيسى ويلكي داشي
Venga, ya te que lo urure.
The military parade took place after the arrival of the President of the Republic, the Supreme Commander of the Djibouti Armed Forces, to the site of the celebration. He was received by the Minister of National Defense, the Chief of General Staff of the National Armed Forces, and other senior military commanders. Following the national anthem, the President of the Republic reviewed the various units and teams participating in the military parade, which is at the forefront of commemorative events dedicated to the commemoration of the National Independence Day in the Republic of Djibouti. He was accompanied by the President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Army Forces, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, during his review of this infantry, naval and air forces, the Republican Guard, the National Gendarmerie, the National Police and the Coast Guard, as well as the military and security units. He was accompanied by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Djibouti, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim.
Indi basasiyo qalbigi bukaan qabay Indi basasiyo qalbigi bukaan qabay calankeena baygali bayanaan warame farxad lala balaada calankeena bayanaan waragne farxad lala balaada noqone adduunyaduna barata dowlad buuxda noqone adduunyaduna barata مدرارتي بلديو وصباص مانتي بوكيد الامني دولة وحدة نقولين أدويادونا باراتا دولة وحدة نقولين أدويادونا باراتا
After the review of the troop, the President of the Republic took his place among the officials. The parade is opened by aircraft, followed by Air Force helicopters that flew over the parade side. Then the troops on foot of the security forces with the flags at their group and preceded it. The troops on foot of the security forces with their flags at their head group and preceded by the heads of corps and commanders of formation or their representatives. The parade of these first units will be punctuated by national music this year. The troops march behind the steps of the commander of the Air Forces, Colonel Wahib Musa. As usual, the marching kicked off the military parade after the flags of the security forces. GN units under the command of a senior officer, Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Nourainan, commander of the GN foot troops, followed by his baton carrier. This year, the Gendarmerie is represented by a detachment of female staff on the National Gendarmerie, led by Second Lieutenant Shemis Musa, followed by two groups, namely the judicial group, which brings together the personnel of the territorial units whose vocation is to exercise the judicial police under the command of Lieutenant Ahmed Mohammed. And the intervention group dedicated to law enforcement missions maintains and restoration of order itself, articulated in two blocks led by Second Lieutenant Muhammad Umar Ali and Second Lieutenant Hamidou Mohammed Aramis. And created by presidential decree on 4 December 2010 and placed under the supervision of the Ministry of Equipment and Transport, it is the turn of the parade of Coast Guard personnel composed of two blocks and commanded by the Captain Vizel Suwais Marbukore, commander of the Coast Guard. The first block is led by the second Lieutenant Ahmed Jila and Iga, while the second is commanded by the second lieutenant. The troops of this institution are all dressed in their red parade of outfits dedicated to the celebration of this ceremony. After the Coast Guard, it is the turn of the men and women of the National Police to step onto the runway headed by Lieutenant Colonel Abdullah Ibrahim. And this year, the FN parade is composed of secondmen of female staff, a block of the first a unit of the Public Security Directorate, a block as well as finally the Special Research and Intervention Unit of the National Police, with this particular march called March number 2. This prestigious unit is placed under the command of Commander Abdallah. This is followed by the parade of troops on foot of the defense forces led by the group flags of the Djibouti garrison corps and formations, also preceded by the corps leaders or their representatives. After the flags parade in front of two units of women's army personnel under the orders of the Commander Amina Muhammad, commander of the Women's Army Personnel Unit, following the BFA parade, it is the turn of the officer cadets of the Joint Military Academy of Arta, led by Captain Ile Abdi Omar, commanding the first formation of Amia, and Amia is closely followed by an Air Force unit with Captain Hussein and is in command following the Air Force, as well as the sailors of the French Navy with their heads of the lieutenant commander, and that this unit closes the parade of troops on foot of the defense forces with the steps punctuated by the composition played by the national music. Is still in the same vein, at the march of the troops on foot, the second block of troops on foot is new, taking places which will sing songs highlighting their formation of healing and courage devoted to their bodies of belonging. These troops follow each other, follows first the headquarters regime, as well as the regiment was followed by a unit of the Hill 7 Battalion, and half of this battalion will be deployed very soon in Somalia to take over elements of the Hill 5 Battalion, which has been on mission for 2 years in Somalia on an equivalence train. Following this Hezbollah unit, it is young commissioners in training at the Gulet Prison Military School in Holhol to take part in this parade composed of 2 units. The military school march under the orders of its chief of corps and the commander of the Gulet Prison Military School in Holhol. This school is intended to train non-commissioned soldiers and non-commissioned officers who are respectively the backbone of the Djibouti Armed Forces. And finally, to close the parade of troops on foot, the Rapid Action Regime represented this year by unit marching with this particular march called March Number 2, and this unit is under the command of Lieutenant Abdallah.
La forme d'unité spéciale de la force d'intervention de la police nationale avec la marche numéro 2 dénommée Anglais. Par l'unité de l'armée de l'air, suivi d'une unité de la marine nationale. Ainsi, c'est le de la marine nationale pour adopter les possibilités de combattre des forces de défense, autant assistées par les compositions jouées par la police nationale. contrôler les chambres, les ordonnances, la formation de la téléphone, le courage de voler, à la force de l'appartenance. Les fêtes seront rencontrées en premier lieu nous avons le régiment quartier général. Suivi de l'école militaire. Le régiment du quartier général de Saint-Denis par l'unité de l'école militaire président Anglais de Hollande. Qui constitue le régiment de la Tunisie et la colonne vertébrale des forces armées du Niger. Suivi de fait sera très prochainement confié en Somalie pour aider à l'équité du Liban et à faire armes du bataillon Hissène en mission de division en Somalie. Dénommé également Anglais. Dans la continuité de cette cérémonie, nous allons assister à la deuxième partie de cette parade militaire concernant le défilé des troupes motorisées.
Thereafter, the second part of this military parade concerning the parade of motorized troops placed under the command of Commander Car and Colonel Mohammed Hirsi Umar, Chief of Corps of the Artillery Regime. At the head of the motorized parade and after the command and follow the parade of Pikers in Republican Guard vehicles placed under the command of Commander Hussein El-Tire, unit commander of the specialized squadron with support vehicles equipped with 12.7 mm and 14.5 mm weapons. After the GR, we have the motorized troops of the Gendarmerie, National Gendarmerie, commanded by the head of squadron, Hussein Mohammed Qayat, Director of Administrative and Financial Services. It is made up of motorcyclists from the Road Safety Squadron, whose personnel carried out day and night surveillance, prevention, repression, and rescue missions on National Road Number 1, the daily road used by almost all trafficking from Or to Ethiopia. This unit commanded by Chief Yusuf Yassin and commander of the Brigade of Motorist Parade Information in Triangle. The vehicles passing through this institution are made up of the resources of the various formation of the National Gendarmerie. The first vehicles are vehicles of the judicial units, mainly the territorial brigades, the road safety squadron, the GIG, and the mobile gendarmerie group. These are mainly sedans, Hilux, pickups, trucks, and Toyota, as well as these means carry the specifications of the units to which they belong. This year, the Gendarmerie is equipped with new means of intervention, command jeeps, vehicles equipped with multiple grenade launchers, tactical patrol vehicles, armored combat, and law enforcement vehicles. And finally, to close the march of the GN motorist, the support vehicles consisting mainly of troop transport and logistic vehicles. After the parade, the motorist troop of the National Gendarmerie, it is the turn of the motorized troops of the National Police, led by Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed Elmi Daliye, to present the parade of the motorcyclists and vehicles of the National Police. Just after the National Police, the Coast Guard motorist troop marched under the command of Commander Mohammed Adawe Mohammed, Deputy Commander of the Djibouti Coast Guard. Motorist troops are composed of the institution's means of transport, which train the rapid nautical means of intervention at sea. The speedboats towed by the cruisers are fast boats, each equipped with two 350 outboard motors, each designed for the exclusive surveillance of port complexes and also for the Coast Guard response team. They are designed for rapid intervention on the high seas during search and rescue operations, but also in the interception of persons committing offenses at sea. After the motorized parade of the security forces, witnessing the parade of the defense forces to start the vehicles of the Central Material Directorate, and the command of the battalion commander, deputy officer of the DCMAT. The different cells that make up the DCMAT parade are respectively the following: the protection cell, the supply and transport cell, the fuel cell, and finally the breakdown service. Following the parade of the Central Directorate of Material Vehicles of Artillery, Regime Parade under the orders of Commander Yahya Abdullahi, Deputy Officer of the Artillery Regime, followed by the Corps flag. The Artillery Regime's motorized parade is composed of multiple rocket launchers mounted on as well as vehicles, self-propelled howitzers and 120 mm mortars and 122 mm D-30 guns placed on the same axis of progress as his peers, and as well the parade of motorized troops of the armed regime. The spearhead of the Djibouti army under the command of its chief Corps Colonel Dair Hassan. The vehicles making up the regime's motorized parade are as follows. After the Chief of Corps vehicle and the regime flag vehicle, we have the reconnaissance and investigation squadron based on Land Rovers, Hammers, and as well as vehicles equipped with 12.7 mm and 14.5 mm weapons. These reconnaissance elements were followed by number 1 armored squadron equipped with the auto light machine gun, and the number 2 armored squadron based on Rattle 90 tanks. The next target largest unit is equipped with PTR 80 vehicles with troop transport capability. After this unit, the mine-resistant Nimpish protected squadron and the Cougar vehicles, which also have troop transport capacity. And this unit also closely monitored by the squadron equipped with the Unimog and GMC vehicles with heavy anti-aircraft weapons. And finally, to close the motorized parade of the armed regime and the cargo type transport vehicles in the continuity of the cavalry parade, the engineering service under the command of Captain Mahmoud Hussein, led by light demanding vehicles, following by 3 heavy ILAV vehicles that have demanding capability. Next come earth-moving machinery, which is vehicle range consisting of mine clearance vehicles and earth-moving equipment. And finally, to close the march of the parade of motorized troops, the parade of the intervention and firefighting vehicles and natural disasters of civil protection fire soldiers. In the framework of celebration dedicated to the commemorating the 42nd anniversary of the glorious national independence, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Mergele, addressed the People's Palace, where he placed a wreath under the monument in the square of the People's Palace. This memorial symbolizes the martyrs of the nation who fell for freedom during the long colonial phase of the history of our country, and the martyrs who later sacrificed themselves in order to preserve the national gains, first and foremost the national independence and the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Republic of Djibouti. On this occasion, the President read out a tribute to the courageous soldiers who had sacrificed themselves for freedom, independence and national sovereignty. The event was attended by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, House Speaker Muhammad Ali Hamad, a number of cabinet members and high-ranking civilian and military figures.
اللهم اغفر لشهدائنا وشهداء المسلمين، اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الذنوب والخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم وأبدل دارا خيرا من دارهم وزوجا خيرا من زوجهم وأدخلهم الجنة واعذهم من عذاب القبر. اللهم اجعل هذا البلد آمنا مطمئنا وسائر بلاد المسلمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك أن توفق قائدنا الأعلى للقوات المسلحة فخامة الرئيس السيد إسماعيل عمر جيل حفظه الله تعالى. اللهم إنا نسألك إيمانا كاملا ويقينا آمنا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة. الفاتحة.
The President of the Republic, Ismail Mergele, hosted this morning, after his patronage of the military parade, a reception in the garden of the Presidential Palace. Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, Speaker of the National Assembly Muhammad Ali Hamad, members of the government, parliaments and officials, delegations from brotherly and friendly countries. The traditional reception hosted by the President of the Republic, usually attended on this day each year by heads of diplomatic missions, representatives of the international UN agencies operating in the country, leaders of the forces of friendly countries based in our country, and large numbers of citizens. The reception was attended by Arab, Somali and Afro national songs, the artistic groups active in the national arena. On this occasion, the President of the Republic delivers a speech in which he expressed his sincere congratulations to the people of Djibouti on the 42nd anniversary of the glorious Independence Day, pointing out that this commemoration represents an opportunity to recall the great sacrifices made by the Djiboutians and the Djiboutians in their long journey to regain their rights, freedom, and national sovereignty. This year again, we have the privilege of hosting the day of June 27. Enthusiasm continued. The President of the Republic, for an emotion, this day, the history that gave birth to our Republic reminds us of our shared destiny and the values that gave birth to our nation, added the President of the Republic. We are generous people. We are a land of tolerance. We are a heaven of peace. We are one nation. We are first and foremost Djiboutians, expressed the head of state. This day, the Djiboutians have a torch that they transmit from generation to generation, the flame of our freedom, our sovereignty, and our independence. That's why when we celebrate this particular date, let us also honor the memory of the Djiboutians who made the advent of this day possible, to those who gave their lives for our freedom and our sovereignty. We can never pay them enough tribute, he said. But we must be worthy of their memory and their sacrifice. We owe it to ourselves and all causes to keep this nation which they have wanted, one and indivisible, this land for which they have or so dearly fought. This republic which was said to be fragile and which today has shown its maturity. For their memory, for their struggle, but also all the hopes of our children, we must never give in. We must always continue to build our nation, continued the head of state, is still more peaceful and even and ever more prosperous. To those who want to sow discord, we will oppose peace. To those who revive divisions, we will fight them unity. To those who want to make our Djibouti a breeding ground for fertile extremes, we will object our tolerance, said the President. My dear compatriots, as we celebrate the consecration of our national sovereignty, I would like to here, said the President of the Republic, as every year, to express my gratitude to those who every day preserve and strengthen this sovereignty. He said, I naturally want to talk about our defense and security forces which are at work both inside and outside the country in fidelity to our values. My dear compatriots, is our sovereignty so dearly acquired that has served us for more than 4 decades now as a solid base for the construction and consolidation of our nation in our republic. It is also our sovereignty that governs our energy and cements our community, because our sovereignty is our banner that we proudly display to affirm our identity. Our country, despite the ups and downs of history, despite the difficulties, has never divided from the path of peace and development. This is thanks to the endurance, clarity, and pragmatism of the Djiboutian people, said the President of the Republic. While the context of globalization exposes nations to a double risk, that of withdrawal or dilution of identity, both harmful of our country, has been able to protect itself from these two extremes by jealousy guarding the ingredients and ferments of its status, but also by integrating and effectively exploiting the different paradigms of globalization. All the struggle or societal reforms that we have conducted have been in this state of mind, he said. These sometimes painful changes were necessary. These political and economic reforms have prevailed over conservatism and monolithism on all sides. The results of these reforms are tangible today. These reforms have allowed a better social, economic, political and integration of Djiboutian women. They have also enabled our political and institutional landscape to achieve real democratization and good governance. These reforms have also allowed our administration to decentralize and become destructive for greater efficiency. Finally, these reforms have allowed better prosperity to our economy with a growth rate now close to 7%. The credit goes to the successive governments who conducted the various reforms with courage to be in tune with developments and changes. Naturally, this government, resulting from the recent reshuffle, will continue in the same direction, faithful in this to the political roadmap of the mandate that the Djiboutian entrusted to me, but also from the Vision 2035, which aims to make our country an emerging economy at this horizon. The government will therefore continue to reform, but the government will also evaluate, because all reform is subject to a goal, a result. It is why at the time of the reform systematically succeeds at the time of evaluation. The evaluation of our public policies, the government will deliver. This is in the inventory due to an unsuitable governance parameter democratic, because judging the relevance of reform according to its results and according to its objectives, this may also allow appropriate to readjust or rectify according to constraints or obstacles encountered in the field. It is therefore at the same time a work of truth, said the presidency, transparency and of efficiency, to which the government will not shy away. In the same way, the government, while pursuing priorities of social development, will mobilize its energy so that our growth, economic impact on the labor market. That's why after the struggle reforms of our economy, we targeted sectoral reforms that are moving in the direction of the match between supply and demand. We must also conduct incentive reforms to reduce the informal sector that prioritize the performance and the development of our economy. All these reforms, we will lead them with conviction, but also with pedagogy, also always in the sense of the collective interest of our fellow citizens. Our region, once entangled in the island's warring mortgage, its economic development aspires to peace and to stability. Our dearest wish is that this new pacification, said the President of the Republic, cycle will take place lasting, and that the people of the region fully enjoy their sovereignty to develop and flourish. Our dearest wish is also that the fertile war in Yemen gives a way to dialogue, so that the brotherly people of Yemen find the way to peace and security. Finally, my dear compatriots, said the President, as we celebrate in jubilation our national sovereignty, we express our solidarity with the Palestinian people whose independence is marked by occupation as unfair as it is barbarous. May this day be a reminder once again that our will, our collective values of unity, equality and peace constitute the better guarantee of the solidity of our Djiboutian nation, concluded the President of the Republic. In his speech in Somali language, the President of the Republic stressed the great importance of the National Day of Independence in the National March for Freedom, and called for the strengthening of the national unity and the fight against all that will affect the values on which our beloved country was based. Our country is becoming more and more free from the obstacles linked to its development every day, says President Gelle. Our country regularly gives the guarantees of success of the projects and strategies defined for its development, said the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Gelle. The head of state of Djibouti made this statement today, Thursday, at the Palace of the Republic as part of his traditional Somali speech to the nation and on the celebration of our National Independence Day. Our country owes the ever-positive results to the vision of its people, President Ismail Omar Gelle said. It owes precisely these good results to the collegial mobilization of all the vital forces of our nation around the need to give our country the strength essential to its economic development, he said. Young people, women and all the other groups in our community have risen as one, said the President of the Republic. And that's all for this news. Thank you for joining us on RTD and have a good night.